So there are an estimated 700,000 people around the world who die annually from drug-resistant infections, drug-resistant infections. And if the situation doesn't change, think scientists, it's estimated that such infections will kill maybe 10 million people per year by 2050. Wow. So medical scientists are always looking for ways to battle disease. And one of these things is not battling new diseases, it's battling diseases that are now drug-resistant that weren't drug-resistant before.
Right.
So one group of scientists is looking back in time. They think that it might hold some clues for future medications. And we say back in time, we mean medieval times. So for most of us, when we think about medieval times, we think about, a brutal life, cholera, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Game of Thrones. That's what we think about medieval times. It was rugged back then. It truly was. And we usually don't think of it as a time for scientific study or medical advances. And yet, as Erin Connolly writes in her article, Medieval Medicine Books Could Hold the Recipe for New Antibiotics, we shouldn't be too quick to dismiss all medieval apothecary as a mix, so to speak, of old wives' tale and superstition. As we have discovered with, let's say, ancient Eastern medicine, sometimes these old methods and concoctions actually do work. They actually provide cures. So Connolly is part of something called the Ancient Biotics team. It's a group of medievalists, microbiologists, medicinal chemists, parasitologists, pharmacists, and data scientists from universities and countries all over the world who believe that answers to today's antibiotic crisis might actually be found in medical history. So Connolly and her group are compiling this database of medieval medical recipes and testing them. And they hope that by revealing patterns in medieval medical practice, this database could inform future lab research about the materials used to treat infection in the past. And we can learn something from that. Now, the fascinating thing about this is they're testing these cures, and some of these cures so far actually work. For instance, I get styes fairly frequently. A lot of you probably do. They're annoying, right? They're painful and they're ugly. Well, a common cause of modern styes is something called the bacterium Staphylococcus aureus. One of these, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, sometimes referred to as MRSA. There you go, is resistant to many current antibiotics. So the Ancient Biotics team said, hey, they whipped up a batch of something called Bald's Eye Salve, an ancient recipe, medieval, that contains wine, good start, garlic, some sort of allium species like leek or onion, and ox gall. It's not like you can make soup out of that.
I was going to say, it's a chicken marinade and eye salve all at once.
There you go. The recipe says that after the ingredients have been mixed together, they must stand in a brass vessel, for 9 nights. Not 7 or 8, but 9 before you use it. And it turned out it worked. It's a potent anti-staphylococcal agent which repeatedly killed established Staphylococcus aureus biofilms in an in vitro infection model, and it also killed MRSA in mouse chronic wound models. Wow. So the stuff worked on their testing. So why do we care about this? I mean, it is pretty interesting. I mean, medicine and ancient medicine are studying why it works, but why do we care? Well, what attracted us to this article, that even as quality professionals, and designers looking for the next innovation, we keep looking at the next big idea, and we keep thinking that new technology and new management techniques and new medical advances and so forth, they're the answer. And most of the time, look, let's face it, they are. I mean, there's always new technologies coming out that we can learn from, but sometimes, whether it's in management or product development or medicine, it might not hurt to look back, even way back, to see what others have done in the past and what has worked in the past. And in a way, if you think about it, for those of you familiar with TRIZ, T-R-I-Z, that's the Russian innovation technique, it's very similar to TRIZ. In essence, it's looking at past successes to see if there is a model or an overlap or some sort of direction that was taken back then that was successful, and how does it tie into what you're doing today? How does it tie into what you're trying to accomplish today? I thought it was a fascinating story with implications that reach into more than just medical research.
Yeah,
I mean, the reason for doing this is how did these guys come up with these concoctions? What was their, not only do these work, but how did they arrive at them? Was there a methodology that they used to come up with these solutions? And can we see from all these various solutions, the ones that work, is there something systematic in the study that kept bringing them back to these solutions that work? And there's something that we can learn from that. So it's not just the medicine; it's the process that they went through.
Procedure.
Hundreds of years old.
It's fascinating. I mean, think about it. I mean, a lot of, if you read about pharmaceutical development, there's really not a lot of energy devoted to antibiotics right now. And that's a problem because the antibiotics that a lot of doctors have in their toolkit are older, and there aren't a lot of new medicines that have been developed. I mean, there's not a lot of profit in antibiotics for pharmaceutical companies as opposed to like something important like Viagra or Rogaine. But I mean, it's true that they
Just
go where the money
switch
is.
those two.
That's right. Bad results there.
Bad results.
But I mean, it's important that there's a profit margin there. So I mean, this idea that you can look back on some cures that maybe are effective as antibiotics are really important, or antifungals. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for looking back from the far and as you say, just as an example for
anything.
For
learning on anything.
Yeah, it's good stuff there. Okay, thanks, Dirk.